welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC. And today we're going to talk about a tool from the BIM Manager Suite called Dimension Checker. But before we begin, I want to remind everyone to please answer questions either throughout the webinar using the questions panel, and I will do my best to answer them as we go. Otherwise, make sure that there's time at the end to answer all of the questions that I missed. And also want to point out that this is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel shortly after this is over. Should be posted in the next day or so, I would guess. So, but with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So, one of the greater challenges in Revit, in my mind, is uncovering dimension string discrepancies, meaning if it's been overridden, short of visually seeing that it's been overridden, is there a way to do? There's no way to do that, And one of the things that I love about Revit is that the dimensions, generally speaking, need to be right? And that was one of the things that I was taught coming up was you can't fake a dimension string in Revit. It's either the dimension itself, what you see is what you get within a rounding reason, or it's been replaced with text. Well, unfortunately, there are ways to fake it, and I'm not going to show you how to fake it, but because we can do that, it leads to possible errors in the drawings now. And you normally won't find that out until one of your consultants tells you that it's wrong because things aren't just lining up on their end. So having a tool, being able to uncover these issues and getting a tool that'll help you do that is a fantastic tool in your toolbox. And today's webinar is going to show you how Dimension Checker can help you track these down and bring them to your attention. So a couple things we're going to figure out today is I'm going to show you where it is, what suite it's part of, a little bit about the UI, not a lot there, and then how it works and how to adjust some of the settings to track down certain dimension strings. And there's some filters built in and whatnot. So, and then how to ultimately track these down. So that's the PowerPoint part, and let's get to it. So the Dimension Checker tool is part of the CTC BIM Manager Suite, which is this nice blue shaded toolkit here, and we've got our freebies. Light shaded colors, we've got the darker shaded colors, which are the licensed tools, and dim checker or dimension checker is the very first one in this list. So first thing I'm going to do though is jump to a floor plan and zoom in on some of these dimensions here. Now, you may not be able to tell just by looking at it, and nor can I. These dimensions look like legitimate dimensions, right? They're all part of the string. Some, they don't appear to be overridden, at least upon just a quick glance. Now, you dial it in, and if you're really getting picky, you can start to see certain things have been overridden here, like this has a dot by it. And that's how we used to have to do it, right? Or in this case, this is just text over the top of a blanked out dimension, right? So there's, I know that because I did that. But if you didn't personally make that change, how are you going to find out that these have been faked, right? So here's what we do. We're in a dimension checker. We'll point all of that out to us. So a little bit about the user interface here, and this is it, is on the left side here, we have all of our controls. So what are we looking for? I want to find dimension values where we are actually using the real value or where text has been replaced. Then we have search options for finding things that have text overrides in them, or the text fields, the left, above, below, right, bottom, before, after, that sort of deal. But then we can either say match all fields or just certain ones. We have a text input area here so that we can include, pare down our searches for certain types of text overrides to make sure that the right verbiage is being used or spelling's an issue, so on. So we have, or if we need to track something down because it needs to be replaced with something else, right? So, and that's about it, right? So you pull up your report, you can save it, which I'll show you, and then we have some visibility and selection options here to top it off. So I'll show you how this works now. So I know I've got some bad ones in here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit search. So I'm going to have all these checked, and I'm going to hit search, and it's going to give me a quick little report of all of the dimensions placed in the drawing. Okay, so I'm going to stretch this out just a tad, and so it's going to give me a list of all the IDs of each string, what view they've been placed in, and if it's a continuous dimension string, meaning you dimensioned multiple objects within the same string, it'll tell you which segment we're working with and which values are applied to those segments. And the reason why we broke it down that way is because you can do an override to just one of those segments, and we need to be able to know which one's been overridden, right? So now we get the value, we get the text override, the replace with text value, and then if any additional text has been added surrounding the dimension itself, right? So as we get going here, you can start to see I've got some that have been replaced with other values where people were trying to use actual dimensions. So this is the old way that we had to do it. But you can see there's some other ones down here where there is no phantom hyphen or underscore or decimal. It's just the text, right? Or the dimension value. So there are ways to fake it so that it looks 100% right. Here's a couple of them that have just a period in there, and so you can see. And then as you get going down, you can see some of them have actual text in there. Okay. So now to help you track some of this stuff down, like in say this case, I want to know where that is. So I can hit show, and it's going to open the view for me. So in this case, O2 floor plan, which is now open, and it is back hiding behind me. All right, my window's too big. So if I pull this off to the side, it'll bring up the view, and then I gotta hit highlight or select. There we go. So 8 of 9. So that would be this guy right here. And if I click on it and click inside the window, sure enough, 10'6", should have been 10'7" 3/8. So I was always of the mindset that if it's wrong, fix it, right? Don't come up with these cutesy ways of changing the values, because if you're doing that a lot, we could end up being off by feet at the end of the day instead of just fractions of an inch. So, and this totally destroys any sort of coordination efforts with other disciplines, especially if they're trying to go ahead and put together an accurate Revit model too. So this highlights the, astounding issues that we have in certain places here. Here's 9'4", should be 10 feet, or it says 10 feet, should be 9'4". So, and those are all right here in the same string. So these three and offices have all been faked, and actually the first few were as well. So, but yeah, so that you basically just get to go ahead and select and either hit show, which will help you open the view for you, or do a zoom extents on the plan if you're already in it. But if it's in the same floor plan, you can just hit select and it'll highlight the whole string for you, and then just reference what segment number it is. And, in this case, it's the last one here. And then because it has been overridden, all you got to do now is you can leave Dimension Checker open, and you can now click inside Revit and switch it back to say use actual value if you need it, if that's what you're looking for. And in some of these cases, that's exactly what I needed to do, because I like it to be right. If it's wrong, we fix the model, and that's my goal. Now, to show you some of the other capabilities here, I want to pare this list down a bit. Yes, it's great to see everything, but on a larger project where you've got thousands of dimensions placed and tens of thousands probably, scrolling all the way through this list like this, that's going to get challenging. That's a lot. It could get overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for specifically any text, any fields that have schedule in the name or in there, and then hit search. And now it filters everything else out except for the text fields that have schedule in them. And now I can go ahead and figure out where those are. I can either double click it, which will bring me right to them, or I could have hit select and show, and which would have opened the view and brought me to them the same way. So either way works out just fine. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I honestly like double clicking, so that's kind of how I typically do it. So in addition to that, I can always exclude those from the list. So if I go back to what I had previously, I can exclude schedule from this, hit search, and now they just no longer show up in this list at all. Other ones that have text in them do, but those ones previously did not. So you kind of can go multiple ways. If there's a couple of things that you want to add, include here, you can also say, maybe get rid of the UNO option as well. And now that also disappeared. This one stayed because it has additional characters in it. It's not an exact match. So I would have to spell that one out specifically as well. So each time you want to either include something in your search or exclude something from it, just add another line here like this, and we'll update this to say UNO in the same fashion here, and hit search again. And now that is no longer in the list. Okay, so makes it really easy to go ahead and update the searching at any given time, really. Now, if I were to undo this and go back to my big list, I have the ability to save this out as a report. And saving a report is just going to give you a nice little Excel file that you have the opportunity to do whatever you need to with. And we'll just make a quick little folder here. And go ahead and open it up. And it's effectively exactly what you saw in the Dimension Checker window. This time we have some built-in filter options already. So it gives you a list of everything that was in the model. And now you can filter it by certain certain views, or sort it however you want. But sometimes this is a cleaner way to review some of that data prior to doing all the work, and maybe help divide and conquer, if you will, especially if you need someone else to do the work for you or help you with this, maybe someone that doesn't have the manager suite or dimension checker available to them, excuse me, you can now give them this report and they can search by element ID at that point and get almost the exact same results. And now they know which one is which, what floor plan they're looking at, and where the issues are. So, you know, another way where you can go ahead and break it up. So, and then, you know, there's not, I mean, that's about it, really. So I'm going to take another step back and show you what some of these other text fields do just real quick. You know, some have text below or text to the right, you know. So depending on what some of your standards are and how things are meant to be labeled, this might help you determine if people are doing it properly, right? So are they using the correct verbiage in some of these cases? And if they are, great. If they're not, you know, okay, now we need to go back and update those. Or now I know maybe we changed an abbreviation somewhere. Now we can go back and make those modifications. But at least this way, it's quick. It's a quick way to find out where things are, or, you know, pare it down so that you only show certain things, right? So I can say, show me only right and below, and that's what I get. You know, had I had stuff in all 4 fields, now I'd get something from all 4. You know, it's entirely up to you how you want to do that. But yeah, that's the gist of it. That's the that's the nuts and bolts behind Dimension Checker. And you know, there's not much more to show, honestly. What I do want to point out real quick is, let me just go back to this. Oops. Let's do that again. There we go. So one last thing I want to show you is with the match case and match all phrases. Obviously, match case is going to do exactly what it is. If it's not spelled exactly the same way, you're not going to find it, right? So it's got to either be in all caps or title case or whatever you used. But you can use the match all phrases, right? So just typing in C isn't going to give me anything. Well, I guess it will. But the idea here is to make sure that you're getting exactly what the phrase states. Like in this case, clear spacing between whatever that is. So that's what I would have to type in. And then it would make sure that every single thing that said clear spacing between, as long as that's contained in those exact same, in that same format, that's the only one that's going to show up. So as far as, and I should probably point this out, as far as repairing the dimensions, this tool isn't actually fixing it for you. It's just reporting on what the issues are and where they are. You still have to make those fixes. So for, you know, in this case here, this is way wrong. So I'm going to double click it, which will bring me to the view. Happens to be right here, and I have to make that change. So that's an intentional decision that needs to be made by the user, and so we don't have a fix or set back to normal, if you will. So that's all something that needs to be done intentionally. Now, I kind of wish there was, to be honest. So I like the idea, but for the moment, it's been it's very much an intentional tweak that needs to be made to the model itself. But yeah, that's Dimension Checker in its entirety. There's not a lot more to it. It's a very easy tool to use. It's very straightforward. Very powerful tool. If you got a project that has a few thousand dimensions in it, it's going to open up, and it's going to open them up quick. We made some adjustments in the not too recent past to make Dimension Checker run a lot quicker. So I challenge you to find a project that makes it slow. So with that said, that concludes my presentation for today. I say thank you for joining me, and look forward to seeing you guys next week when we have our next weekly Revit webinar.